Magnus Carlsen won Game 10 of the World Chess Championship, and with that levelled the scores. So just 2 games to go, and the question was, after this bitter defeat, how would the challenger Sergei Karjakin react going into Game 11? He had the white pieces, and he played a variation of the Spanish that was pretty well known in top-level chess. And, well, he's not risking too much. You can see he's got a very nice pawn structure here. It's all very safe and solid. But white can try to get some initiative on the king side here. So this is the position after 15 moves. We're not very far from the beaten tracks here. This is this position hasn't actually occurred in previous games, but only a couple of moves before. There were precedents. So both players, it's quite possible they had this position in their preparation. Karjakin played f5, so he's trying to generate some play on the king side. Of course, starts to try to open up the f-file and gives this bishop some more room on the diagonal as well. So threat to take on e6. Now Carlsen could close the position, but I think this is really what white wants here. Suddenly the rook swings up and queen h5 might be on the cards. White certainly has a very pleasant initiative on the king side, and you never know, on a good day that g-pawn might sweep up the board as well. No, that's closing the position, not good. Carlsen played rook e8, and this move I like a lot, and you can see that black's pieces are very harmoniously placed. The rook, of course, protects the e-pawn, but also this introduces the possibility of exchanging on f5 and perhaps opening the e-file at some stage. I really like the harmony of black's pieces here. I think harmony, this could be the theme for the match actually. How the players keep harmony in their forces, and how can they exploit a slight disharmony in their opponent's position. So nothing more to do for white on the king side for the moment. And Karjakin played bishop d2. Of course, he has to bring this rook into play. He has to connect the rooks. And now Carlsen started to gain space on the queen side and in the centre. I like this very much. So black is fighting back. After almost quarter of an hour's thought, Karjakin played h3. Now it looks quite a modest move. I think an indication there's nothing really on in the position at the moment. Gives the king a little escape square later on potentially. Also in some variations it can be important to protect the queen. For example, if black is taking here and the rook takes, then the rook might have to move away. So okay, it's a safe and sensible move. But you can see that Carlsen is starting to kind of motor in this position, and here he came up with a very, very interesting idea. First of all, he played his pawn to c3. Okay, well this looked reasonable, and Karjakin took this, and well, those of us watching were all expecting him at Carlsen to recapture, and then maybe later on attempt to use this majority on the queen side. But white is also very solid here, and the position looks about equal. But after Karjakin captured on c3, incredibly, Carlsen didn't recapture and played d5, just adding more tension to the centre, and suddenly we've got quite an explosive position on the board. I mean, there's so much tension here, and I think this came as a real shock to Karjakin. So many possibilities, and well, if he was looking for a safe game, then he hasn't got exactly what he wanted here. He thought for almost half an hour on what to do in this position. Let's just run through a few of the possibilities. Well, first of all, this one is easy to discount. After this, black is checking the king and will take the rook in the corner. So definitely not this one. Okay, what if we take this pawn? So e takes d5. Then black takes on c3. White can't, of course, take here because there's a check. And then you take the bishop. So that's completely out of the question. So the bishop must move, let's say here, and black takes on f5. Now be careful, that bishop is on. So the queen steps back, then rook e5. Well, black is actually about to win a pawn here. Not good. Okay, so what about taking on e6? Well, this is also quite interesting for black, because in this position, well, black is still a pawn down for the moment, but threatening to take here and here. Now, if white takes on d5, then the rook sweeps down, and, well, there's a very long variation here after something like rook f2, and, well, it goes into an endgame that is, yeah, it's still very complicated, but black has all the chances. So Karjakin clearly just unsure which way to go. He knows if he gets into an endgame where he's slightly worse, he could be tortured for hours, and he has some experience of that recently and didn't fancy it. Okay, what happens if he just waits? What about just popping the king into the corner and then maybe he can take on d4 or something? Well, black will take on c3 and then we'll take on e4. So pawns are level again, and then we take on f5. Well, it's clear that black, if anyone is better in this position, it's probably black, because this pawn is weak. And yeah, these pawns on the queen side, I think in the long term, look very pleasant. That could be a real advantage in the endgame, winning so much space and these pawns vulnerable, and a nice majority. So, after 27.5 minutes, Karjakin played bishop g5. He is a great defender, and although there is clearly danger in this position, he knows very well how to kind of just keep the ball on the floor, as they say in football, to just calm things down. Excellent defensive move, bishop g5. Once the bishops are exchanged, then in heavy piece endgames, just queens and rooks, then the defender always has decent drawing chances. So very sensible move. Carlsen exchanged. Still a complicated position. Okay, we have lots of pawn exchanges now. A pair of rooks come off. Black takes back. Karjakin takes the pawn on d4. And now, if Carlsen wanted to, he could simply exchange here. Let's push the queen out of the way. Supposing it comes here. Black wins the pawn back. Well, this is just a dead draw, actually. So if Carlsen wanted to, he could exchange here, and it's going to be a draw very, very quickly. Instead, he played more ambitiously. So I think this gives, it sends a message to Karjakin, basically. Carlsen is not going to give up playing for the win. He's going to make his opponent suffer if possible. And this passed pawn, far advanced, is dangerous. But, as compensation, white is a pawn up. And, it's not easy to force that rook out of the way, but one never knows. This rook is very passive now. And now a5. I wondered whether Carlsen was perhaps toying with the idea of playing b4 and perhaps sacking another pawn and getting another passed pawn. But anyway, Karjakin did not entertain this possibility at all and played a solid move, pawn to c3. Good move. Queen a2. So Carlsen is probing, so he's still protecting that pawn, but he's looking at the pawn here, maybe looking to move into this square to attack the rook. But as we know, Karjakin is a great defender, and with a bit of calculation, he found this move, Queen c6, excellent move. So he knows when to kind of cut in and create counterplay. Queen hassles the rook moves up, a check, king comes here, and now a very good move, c4. So now this breaks communication. So the queen is threatening the rook. And the problem is that just in this moment, the queen is too far from defending the king. So white has just enough counterplay. Carlsen played queen here. The rook was taken, although this looks very scary for white just for a moment. In fact, the queen is able to deliver a perpetual check. Queen to e4 check. Here they actually agree to draw, because if the king goes back, you check again, and of course if the queen goes back, you take the pawn. So after this check, the king has to step back up. Queen e4 check. Well, okay, you can get melodramatic and block with the pawn, but then it's just a perpetual check here. And so on. So, draw. Well, a fairly short game, 34 moves, but quite a lively encounter. And I think we can see Carlsen coming into form in these last couple of games, obviously with a win, and this game as well. You know, he did manage to put a bit of pressure on Karjakin. So there is just one game to go. The 12th game still to be played. That's going to be played on Monday. If that's a draw, then there'll be a tiebreak of 4 rapid play games. But let's see what happens on Monday. Remember, Carlsen will have the white pieces, and I'm sure he's going to go for a win in that last game.